One of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating. Noticing that Jesus had given them a good answer, he asked him, "Of all the commandments, which is the most important?" "The most important one," answered Jesus, "is this. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this. Love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these." "Well said, teacher," the man replied. "You are right in saying, the God is one, and there is no other but Him. To love Him with all your heart, with all your understanding, and with all your strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself is more important than all burnt offerings and sacrifices." When Jesus saw that he had answered wisely, he said to him, "You are not far from the kingdom of God." And from then on, no one dared ask him any more questions.
In the Gospel according to Mark, a scribe asks Jesus, "Which commandment is the most important?" This question comes from a man who knew the law of Moses inside out. He didn't ask it maliciously or to trap Jesus. He asked sincerely, with a deep concern for truly understanding God's command. In response, Jesus cites two commandments that are inseparably linked: love for God and love for neighbor. These two commandments, drawn from Deuteronomy and Leviticus, were known to the Israelites for a long time. However, Jesus connects them in such a way that gives them new meaning. People at that time had a right to be confused. The law of Moses contained 613 commandments, a collection of moral, ritual, and civil laws mainly found in the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, known as the Pentateuch. However, these commandments should not be confused with the Decalogue, which was only a part of the broader law. Jesus answers the scribe by referring to 2 passages from the Old Testament, the 6th chapter of Deuteronomy, which says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength." And the 19th chapter of Leviticus, "Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as yourself." He combines these 2 commandments into one, showing that love for God and love for neighbor are inseparably connected. As stated in the 4th chapter of the 1st epistle of John, "Remember, if someone claims to love God but hates a brother or sister, they are a liar. For if someone does not love their fellow believers, whom they have seen, they cannot love God, whom they have not seen." Let's start with love for God. Jesus says that we are to love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. This means that our love for God should permeate every part of our being. We are to love with all our heart, meaning with full emotional devotion. We should engage with all our soul, which encompasses our spiritual life. With all our mind, involving all our mentality. With all our strength, meaning with all our efforts and resources. The second commandment speaks of loving our neighbor as ourselves. Here Jesus shows that love for God cannot exist without love for others. In the 4th chapter of the 1st epistle of John, it says, "If someone says, 'I love God,' but hates a brother, they are a liar." Our love for God must manifest in love for our neighbors, for every person, regardless of their background, social status, or religious or political beliefs. It is challenging to love people who are often so different from us, but that is God's command. How can we practice such love in today's world? Modernity presents many challenges. We often forget simple acts of love and kindness, focusing on our own problems and goals. Meanwhile, it is these small acts of love that have the power to transform the world. Helping an elderly neighbor with groceries, or simply listening to someone in a difficult moment. These are expressions of love that can bring about significant changes. Each of us holds the most powerful currency in the world, time. Let's share this wealth with those in need. Let's listen, comfort, and simply be there for each other with kind support. In his response to the scribe's question, Jesus reminds us that the entire essence of the law and the prophets is contained in love for God and neighbor. Without this, our religious practices are empty, and our faith is dead. I encourage you to be guided by love in your daily lives, the love that comes from God and is unconditional. Let our hearts be full of love for God, which transforms into love for our neighbor. Only in this way can we be true followers of Christ and build the kingdom of God on earth. As the late Father Jan Twardowski wrote in his poem, "Let's hurry to love people. They leave so quickly. They leave behind only their shoes and a silent phone. Only what is unimportant drags on like a cow. The most important things are so fast. They happen suddenly. Then comes the usual silence, entirely unbearable. Like purity, born most simply from despair, when we think of someone while remaining without them." May God bless us all.